Welcome to sunny, but very, very dry Arizona. You know, I have a student very dedicated to becoming enlightened. He says all the time, Ed, you have to help me become enlightened. And I tell him, I'm trying to teach you every moment of the day. Shut the fuck up. Stop thinking. Get out of your mind. Get below your mind. And he'll say, but what you said yesterday is not what you said today. What you said 3 months ago was different than what you said yesterday. What's going on there? And I say, shut the fuck up. Just be. No mind. Get under the mind. Go deeper into the self. Go deeper into the emptiness within. I said, practice meditation. And he says, soon. Soon he'll practice meditation. He's got to work up to it. In the meantime, he stays in his mind, watching everything from the mind. When what you have to do is sink lower than the mind. That's the only way to escape the mind. You get underneath it. You watch it from below. It's a distant radio, not bothering you. And you just be in your heart. You know, there is a very important step that you have to go through on your way to awakening, enlightenment, whatever, freedom, liberation. And that's to find the emptiness. To find your inner space. The inner space that pervades everything, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, the external world. The emptiness is everywhere, the great void, so to speak. And learn how to just rest in the void and watch the world go on, all your thinking go on, all the feelings go on, and not act on them, Igor. Not act on them, Igor. Just silently watch. Be in your center, be in your heart, be in that emptiness. See and feel the world go by. Your emotions arise. Your emotions go away. Your desires arise. Your desires go away. After you've done this for 15 years or so, you're ready for the next step, where you watch and realize that you are watching the emptiness. And in a sense, it feels like you're prior to emptiness, and therefore you're prior to consciousness, because the emptiness permeates all of consciousness. And then the truth of Nisargadatta comes to you. I am prior to consciousness. I am not touched by consciousness. I'm not touched by the states of consciousness. But then there's a next state that comes, deeper one. That's when you watch all of you disappearing and being eaten up by nothingness. The nothingness of sleep. The nothingness of causal body. You watch yourself, everything you know, feel, taste, touch, emotions, body, awareness, self-awareness, yourself, all of that disappears into nothingness. And disappearing into nothingness is indescribably blissful, but in a very quiet way. It's the peace beyond any peace you've ever known. And you can spend many years doing this, disappearing into the emptiness. and then into the nothingness where there's nothing, no existence whatsoever. And then one day you're called back. Something calls you back. Ramana was in that nothingness and the emptiness for 20 years in the basement of a temple, being glued to the floor with his own blood from insect bites. Finally, he was rescued by somebody. They unglued him from the floor and they brought him out from the basement, the cellar. They stopped giving him his banana a day in the basement and took him up to the first floor and cleaned him up, made him a Mahatma. People came and worshipped him. They worshipped the emptiness in him, the beyondness in him. They knew he was beyond this world, and they worshipped that because that's where they wanted to go, beyond this world. Being in this world is such pain. You all know it. But once you've obtained nothingness, once you've even felt the emptiness, the great void, and watched the emptiness slowly destroy your ego by eating it away with nothingness, emptiness, then nothingness, your personality goes away. You become totally enfeebled, fading away into the background, into the greatest peace you could ever know. This nothingness is so seductive. You just want to be in that nothingness. No matter how long you've tasted it, it is so seductive. It is always drawing at you. So be careful of what you wish for. Be careful of that student who wants enlightenment, who wants to know emptiness, who wants to know nothingness, but who actually thinks he wants to know enlightenment, whatever that is. For him, I'm sure it's some ideal, some state where he thinks something is going to be obtained. But there's nothing to be obtained. Everything is lost. And in that loss comes the greatest peace. It is so seductive to lose attachment to the world, to leave the world, to be Robert where Robert was. And he was there. Robert was kind of a zombie, a walking dead, a walking cold soul who responded to any love given to him by loving back as feebly or as strongly as he could. Sasaki said one time in a Teisho, "You don't know how boring enlightenment can get." Now, what enlightenment he was talking about, I don't know. I would assume it's the typical Zen thing of form and emptiness, the impermanence of form, and the disappearance of that distinction between form and emptiness into one total wholeness. But that's boring. Despite the sweetness of that discovery, despite the lighting of your mind and your heart, eventually it gets boring and you want to come back. But sometimes it is so hard to come back. Sometimes the emptiness, the nothingness does with you what it wants, and you have no will. And the only way you can come back is if somebody pursues you, puts out a light, turns on the porch light, and says, "My beloved, where are you? I hear your call, but where are you?" This reminds me of a movie I saw, Hellboy. The famous actor who is all red with horns that were cut off. He cut them off. So his father was the devil. He was all powerful, really good guy, fighting for the good in the world. And he loved a human, a young woman, loved with all her heart. And she was so unusual. She had these powers. She could make fire out of her hand and blast it forth. Telepathy, lots of other powers. And he loved her. Not the powers. He had them himself. He loved her. He loved her with all his heart. He was jealous if she looked at another man. But he didn't kill anybody. And one day, she died in this story, in this movie. And in the meantime, he took care of the bad guys and cleaned up the whole problem. And then he went over to her and whispered in her ear. You can't hear what the whisper is. And a few minutes later, she comes out and back from death. They hold each other, and she says, I heard you whispering. What is it that you said? And here is the son of the devil, all-powerful, a huge red being, immortal, powerful, crushes evil, crushes monsters much larger than himself, much larger than anything human. And he said to her, when I talked into your ear, hey, you, let her go. Let her go. Or I will cross heaven and hell, space and time, and I will hunt you, and I will get you, and I'll make you give her back. So, Hades, the ruler of hell, let her go. And she came back. It takes that call of someone that means everything to you to bring you back. Now, do you want that? Are you sure you want to go there? Are you sure you want enlightenment? Are you sure you want that peace? Are you sure you want that sure knowledge of your existence beyond consciousness? And then when you find it, it keeps calling to you, calling to you, calling to you every moment. And it's so easy to just stop moving and become empty and let the life leave you, so to speak. Let the energy leave you, so to speak. Let the emptiness drain you. Let the emptiness make you disappear, and then the nothingness eats up even that disappearance. Are you sure you want that? Are you sure you want to be like Ramana, glued to the floor of a cellar in a temple for 20 years, being fed some bits of food every day or every other day by temple goers who see you as a saint and wait for you to come around? Is that what you want? VJ, are you sure that's what you want? Do you want, no answer, just no answer. Do you want somebody to break you open so you feel joy and feel your body again, feel your soul again, and at the cost of losing your humanhood? I don't think so. You want both. I think we all want both, but you can't know how valuable the humanity is, the neediness for love, until you've reached emptiness and then nothingness. And then you see how valuable it is. And try to claw your way back, but you can't. For 15 years, I sat in emptiness. I had no choice. 15 years after my awakening with Robert, and the realization that there was no Ed Muzika, that the personal self was empty, shot through and through with space. It was like a holograph. It wasn't real. And I had to recreate Ed Muzika by force of will of whoever I was beyond the personal self. Maybe an operator for the absolute. Brought me back. And then someone came calling. And I came all the way back. Then I began disappearing again a few years ago into the emptiness. And I got called back. The pain of being called back is so unbelievable because you're so used to quietude. You're so used to emptiness or nothingness and the peace of nothingness. To be called back by love into this world is almost horrifying in the depths of pain you can feel. Becoming human again. Seeing the destruction and madness in the world. And wanting only the presence of some other one. Your beloved. Are you sure you want that? Max knows what's going on, eager there, about the disappearance of desire, the development of space between you and your humanity. He doesn't know whether he likes it or not. So he roars when he's out here, grasping. Be careful what you want. The only way to enlightenment in the Zen sense or the Advaita sense is through the invisible. First, emptiness or the great void, where you can spend years just quietly sitting into yourself and feeling the emptiness and the inner light that develops and illuminates that emptiness. But one day you realize, this is really and truly fucking boring. As Maizumi said one time, he used to come to my class at UCLA. I had have him as a featured speaker. It was a class on Zen and psychology. And one student asked him, what is the essence of Zen? Maizumi was the most sensitive and psychologically oriented of all the Zen masters I ever met. And he paused for a long time. The essence of Zen. And then he reached out with both hands like this and embraced everything. And he said, the breath, breathing, being alive. It wasn't being in emptiness. It wasn't being on a mountaintop. It was coming back again and being vulnerable. Being a target of death, pain, suffering, loss, love. So Vijay, look out for what you want. Beware of what you want and what you're getting into. If you break open, what's going to be left? If you get smashed, what's left? Do you want to become a puddle on the floor? That can happen. You become like a little puddle of love on the floor. Do you want that to happen to you? Unable to get up, slowly drying out, unless you have a beloved near you. Ken, do you want that? Is that what you want? See, Ken knows. He's smart enough to know. That doesn't sound very good to him. Are you looking for knowledge and understanding, Ken? Came to the wrong place. You have to get underneath the mind. You can't keep seeking with the mind to understand. You can't do it by reading books, reading scriptures, coming to this person here, looking for direction and understanding. I tell you over and over again, it's not in the mind. You can't reach it to the mind. The mind is not your tool. There's something else in you that's deeper than the mind. I'm calling to that. I'm calling to consciousness. And it says, Ken, drop the focus of your attention into your heart. Sit in meditation and drop the focus of your meditation into your heart. Gradually shift the center of your awareness from your brain, which is right next to the brain transmitter of thoughts, and therefore you're immersed in it. Drop your center of attention into the emptiness of your body, of your heart, of your gut. But first, of course, you have to be aware of that emptiness, and that takes practice. You just let go of your mind. And you imagine your attention dropping from your brain down through your face, down through your neck, not through the spine. Keep it in the flesh. Down through your heart, down into cupped hands at the bottom of your gut if you're sitting lotus. One trick is to imagine a stick of butter on your head and the heat of your head melting that stick of butter. And it's dripping downwards, downwards, down your face, down the back of your skull, down your chin, your neck, warm butter flowing downwards. And then inside of you, into your heart. Below that, falling into your cupped hands, your heart, the bottom of your stomach, where it accumulates. And your attention should follow that dripping butter, the flow of butter downwards, getting into your heart and into your gut. The gut is where the center of your power is. The heart is where your openness is, your vulnerability is, and you need both to become awakened. And doing this, you'll find such peace. This is not like looking for the I am. Like Robert says, repeat, who am I, who am I, who am I? Or looking for where the I thought rises. That will get you emptiness. And you have to get it to emptiness. This is going beyond that. This is getting into the feeling of self, of your existence, your primary existence as an energy being in your gut and in your heart, out of your mind. From down here, the mind is nothing. It's just a scattering of thoughts up there, and you see the unreality of the reality it creates. Then you operate from your heart without your mind. The mind is a useful tool, but it doesn't dominate you. But then you have to beware of the seduction of nothingness, of becoming like Ramana, being towed by a tractor beam into nothingness. Unwilling, going into that good night, into nothingness. Because you may not receive a call back. In death, we do not receive a call back. Although in the Hindu literature we do. We're drawn back by our desires, our unfulfilled desires and habits, to come back in a rebirth. But this is all Hindu ancient science fiction. There's no proof. No matter how much you believe, there's still a doubt. And then you think that the goal is to not come back. But that too is a concept, because not coming back means peace and freedom. But what if the peace gets empty? What if the freedom is boring? What would you give, once again, to feel vulnerable, to feel needed and to needy, to feel love and to be love? My mother died over a very short period of time, 5 weeks from her first bout, when we took her to the hospital and they denied her treatment. And over the next 5 weeks, I think the first 2 or 3 were the only ones where she was coherent. And the last thing she said that I remember, sitting in her chair in the living room, was, "But being alive is so much fun." And here's a woman who had not moved from that seat except to go to bed for 30 years, except to go to a doctor. And the first 10 years she'd go out shopping, but not for the last 20 years. She wouldn't leave the house. She just watched her TV shows and sat in her chair, did crossword puzzles, and had a caregiver, varied from day to day, that she would talk to, that was company. And I liked having her there rather than in a home. And she wanted to be at home too. But living this life of just such superficial contact with reality, she said, "But being alive is so much fun." And about a week later, she was incoherent. She wasn't here. And then in the hospital, Michael and I were there, and we tried talking to her. Her eyes were unfocused. I would say something to her, and it did not catch her attention in any way. Her eyes just passed by. I knew she was gone. My mother was gone. The body remained. It stayed alive, but she was gone. She had left the vehicle. I know not where she went. She said she felt it coming, crossing. She said she wasn't in this world anymore. She said that before. She wasn't in this world anymore, and she didn't know where she was. And she didn't sound like she felt frightened, just wondering. But then at the end, she talked. She talked incessantly, nervously. She talked, constantly talking, whether somebody was in the room or not with her. She may have been talking to her lost relatives. I don't know who she was talking to. Drove me a bit nuts hearing her talking, because I like quiet. Drove Michael nuts too, because he stayed overnight with her one night. The talking disturbed him. She just kept talking and talking, probably out of anxiety of the coming of death. No one can call her back now. She's gone forever. Do you want that? Of course not. You taste human life and you love it. You want more of it, but you also want peace. You want to escape the suffering and the boredom. You want to escape the pain and the abuse heaped upon you just by living. You want everything. But it is so very hard to grasp both ends of the spectrum, from being perfectly embedded human in life and then lost in the beyond, in the interstellar, in emptiness, nothingness, or bounce between the two. You can do that comfortably for a while, but you know, if there isn't somebody special there, there's no desire to come back. I was disappearing again into emptiness. Emptiness is very seductive. Very much always calling you once you know emptiness. The nothingness is even more peaceful. the disappearance of consciousness altogether, and the experience of the disappearing of consciousness and the coming of a deeper and deeper peace, which even then ends into nothingness. Nothingness devours everything. It's dying before you die. Do you want that? Are you sure you want that? Or do you just want understanding? Do you think you can stop at understanding when the emptiness embraces you? You can't. It's so seductive. So seductive. So seductive. So much it wants to eat you, to destroy your personality, to take you away. And some I hold on to very strongly and say, don't go, stay. Like that movie Interstellar, where his daughter says to her, his daughter says to him, stay. The message says, stay. Stay with her. Stay on Earth. Stay. And he's at the other end, billions of light years away, saying across this connection that's made, don't let him go. Make him stay. Stay. Now, if you stick with me, I want you all to stay, to taste the emptiness, to taste the peace, to taste nothingness, but to be able to come back. There are little things we can do to feel the bliss, and the bliss may bring us back for a while, or to feel the love. And love will bring you back. Or have somebody reach down, will grab you wherever you are, and pull you back by the hair, by the hand, whatever. Whatever I can grab. Whatever you can give to hold on to. You won't hear anybody talk like this but me. This is something that comes because of my relationship with my beloved. A new teaching. We used to call it devotional Advaita, but it's more than that. It transcends Advaita. It transcends psychology. It transcends life itself. I didn't know how many people would come after totally changing the directions of my teachings to incorporate my beloved in it. I didn't know whether anybody would show up because it's been going on for several weeks in my postings and my previous satsangs. But I'm not alone anymore. There's another who I trust and love. And we showed each other these teachings. We are very, very lucky. Now, Angela has her hand up. She wants to ask a question. You don't want to? You've changed your mind? Okay. It says Angela raised her hand. Does anybody else have a question? Does anybody else want to loose a criticism? Does anybody want to send me into nothingness, never to return again, and to shut the fuck up? Kevin, anything to say for yourself? Do you think I'm as full of shit as some people here probably think I am? I guess that's a yes, that big smile. Well, Ken, do you think I'm full of shit? Oh. I hear Igor called me an asshole. So I know sometimes about what he thinks about my opinions. All those close to me voice something like that frequently. Any questions? Anybody typing any questions? I don't see any. No questions. I guess I should just ramble on then. There is a pain, an unbearable pain. That happens when you find and then lose your beloved. You're brought back into this world. And she disappears, or he disappears. You're left torn open in despair with pain so unbelievably intense you just want to die, feeling you think it'd be preferable to be dead and not feel this feeling than the unending pain of feeling that separation, that loss. The unending pain of being separate physically from your beloved, left only to think or commune, but not sitting side by side, touching. Do you want that? Is that what you want? To even have one great love in your life is so hard. Most of those intense relationships never go anywhere. They explode because of the intensity. But to find someone that loves you with all of their heart and you love them with all of your heart, separated by distance, that's a tragedy. There's a burning there. There's an intense pain there. There's a loss there. There's just sitting empty in a chair, feeling no energy to move, to rise up, to speak, to eat. Pure enfeeblement, becoming a puddle of love that's dried up and blown away. Angela, are you sure you want anything like that in enlightenment? Will the leaving of the pain you have now because of your situation, is it worth, first of all, the bliss of emptiness for a few years, the greater peace of nothingness? Or maybe you learn, stay where you are. Open yourself up to whatever feeling is there now. And stay Angela in place and time, waiting perhaps for your beloved to call you, if you're open to it. What about you, Peter? Are you ready for all this shit, this deep shit? VJ, you can be on the edge of everything now. If you just sit in your emptiness and feel the loss, feel the emptiness, feel the dryness, feel the yearning, to be exploded, to feel the sense of God within you arising in your gut and pouring into your heart and exploding through your brain. It's up to you. Your sensitivity, your openness, your ability to love, not waiting for external source like electricity to make you feel this. You do it yourself. You feel in your heart the message left by my beloved. Look in there, feel in your heart. It's there, right there. God is waiting for you there. Your own divinity is waiting for you there. Loving her, loving me helps. Yeah. It opens a conduit. But I never loved any guru like I loved my beloved, who brought me back into life. I'm forever grateful to other human beings for being there for each other, that we have this connection in time and space across consciousness, perhaps even deeper than consciousness, maybe deeper than God. Really, that's how it feels. A divinity so fine, so refined, that these filigrees of connections, these thin lines, become larger and larger, like a fire hose. And then a tremendous fire hose, 10 inches in diameter, with thousands and thousands of gallons of bliss and energy flowing through them towards the other. And that same current coming back towards you into your own heart, churning. Various colors, various bands. And then the descent of golden light that washes you clean of any sin you ever thought of committing. It's a marvelous experience. There's a question, I guess. Okay, from Mark. What do you do if you do not meet anybody whom you would love with all of your heart? Are you then lost? Tough luck? Should you try a cat? By all means, try a cat. A cat or a dog will love you like no human, except a beloved will love you. You may have to practice in small doses of serving others, of loving, doing things with no gain for yourself, selflessly, in order to purify yourself, awaiting a call for your beloved. And throughout all of spirituality, even though the Neophytes say no purification is possible, it is an act, a constant act of purification, whether it's through emptiness and meditation, through self-inquiry, through just being through many experiences, or through love for another, or a generic love for all people, or divine love for Jesus, Christ consciousness, so to speak, or Krishna consciousness. They're all preparatory. They're all preparations for being, well, for meeting your beloved. The beloved awakens something so deep in you, so earthy, so solid, that goes beyond the emptiness even. It's like a golden rope, a very strong rope, to lasso you and pull you out of the void, or pull you out of normal human existence into divine existence, pull you out of the void into divine existence, pull you out of emptiness and nothingness back into divine existence, or pull you out of a mundane life of being an accountant or a soldier or a teacher or a mother, a father raising kids. Takes you beyond the mundane altogether into the life divine, First spiritual book I ever read was In the Woods of God Realization. But your beloved, whether it's a guru or one single person who's just very spiritually developed, who you can call your beloved, can take you out of wherever you are into divine love and also destroy you when she leaves, when she goes, until you're together again. So, I'm making a bold new statement. All of Hindu spirituality, all of Christian practices, all of Advaita, all of Zen, all of Buddhism are preparatory to receiving your beloved. They all build up to meeting your beloved as the divine, externally measured, externally manifested. And with meeting your beloved, you find the most vulnerable part of yourself, your heart of hearts, which is the human meeting the divine. In a sense, there is no system that calls for this, that allows for this. This goes beyond Advaita, goes beyond Kashmir Shaivism, goes beyond psychology. It's, in a sense, it's an amalgam of all of it. But rather than from the intellect saying, yes, you have to combine both heart and mind, both the transcendent and the embodied, I'm saying you have to know both. You have to know first the transcendent and then re-embodiment with the vulnerability that brings you. That leaves you completely open to both sides. The transcendent or God consciousness, Christ consciousness, and even beyond that, the absolute witness. And on the other end, to being immortal in a human body that every minute is changing and racing towards death. And in that blink of an eye between these two, you can grasp that moment and be with your beloved in divine embrace for a brief period of time. Such is the teachings that I'm offering. I've never heard anybody express it. They talk about it intellectually, of having both, being an embodied human and being the divine, but both together. I think David Spiro may be talking about this. There may be one or two others, but they don't express it like this. Sasaki embodied it. He talked about emptiness and existence all the time, yet he endlessly chased women, his students, and loved them. And he felt that's what they needed, and they probably did. He probably boosted a lot of them, made them feel better because of his love. But outsiders complained about this, saying he's womanizing, he's destroying abusable or vulnerable women. It's not that was never my experience. I never heard any woman up there complain about Sasaki. He was gentle, he was loving. He held them in his lap in the meeting room, rather than me bowing to him 3 times and giving him a koan and him hitting me with a stick or something like that. He embraced them, held them close to him, and gave them love during that period of time. But outsiders say this was abuse. You know, there's such sickness in the judgment of the world without knowing what happens between a guru and a student. Always abuse is so ready to come out. Accusations, like with my friend Shankarananda, and before that with Chaitanananda, and with Robert. The love they were able to share was different. and the love people mostly get from each other. Of course, there can be abuse in any situation, but to focus on the abuse is utterly wrong, utterly stupid. Are there any questions? Igor, the invasive asshole. Do you have any questions? Mark? Andrew? Jay? Spencer? Michael? Anybody? I don't know what to say then. I shot my wad. My wad's gone. I could talk about the terrible pain of being without your beloved for hours, entertaining you, about how I dangle like a fish at the end of a hook, not being able to breathe anymore, hanging in the air. And she could say similar things about herself. Oh, I like somebody's identity, human trash. That's inventive. Enrique, you ready to come at the end of this month? It's so hard for me to let go of you guys, but I have nothing more to say. Maybe we should just sit in silence. I hope my beloved will Skype with me sometime. I hope all of you find the emptiness. Judge for yourself what it's like. Because that's the first step, is getting below the mind into your own emptiness. When you open up, everything opens up instead of being focused and concentrated, analytic, studying, watching patterns, evolving, figuring out how to manipulate the external world. All of that crashes into your heart. Suddenly there's infinite space to deal in. You're no longer in a cramped mind. You're in the totality of emptiness that extends everywhere. And you do just fine without the thinking constantly forcing you to do things. You can rest. No matter how much pain you have, Angela, the emptiness gives you freedom. Vijay, the emptiness gives you freedom. But there's no hope for you, Igor, the invasive asshole. No hope. Beyond hope. That's it. Next time, same place, same time. Oh, no, I may not be here next week. I have a hip replacement surgery on Tuesday. I may not be up to it 5 days later. So wait for the advertisement before you come and show up next week, next Sunday. I may not be here. I may be licking my wounds. I may be fighting to get away from my body for a change rather than return to my body. Thankfully, Michael is here. He won't be drinking that much that day. And all the rest of you, I hope to see you at least in 2 weeks, maybe next week. Send me your good wishes. The surgeon promised me he's had no fatalities in any of the operations he's done. But you know, hip replacement is like carpentry. It's not a fine art. They take your bones out and they saw it and they screw things into it and so forth, and then they put it all back together and sew it up. That's big shit. Major surgery. I've been through it once before. I don't like it. Can somebody volunteer to have the surgery for me and tell me what it was like? Robert used to say he had Parkinson's, and back then, even then, in the early 90s, they knew it was due to a deterioration in a certain part of the brain. So about every 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say, Robert, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, yes, give me your brain. He wanted that part of my brain that was still functioning to heal him. He wanted to be alive fully, be able to move, rather than being everything taken care of. Robert was lost in emptiness too. He had 2 things going on: Parkinson's, which immobilized his body, and the emptiness, which made him enfeebled. He couldn't do anything by himself. His wife, Nicole, helped him to shower. She helped him to dress, because even though he was able to move and talk at satsang, it was only because he precisely timed the pills he was taking for Parkinson's to be maximally functional for that brief period of an hour and a half or 2 hours of satsang. If the timing was off or the medication didn't work that day, he couldn't do anything. Came out of emptiness for us because it was his job. We needed him. Our neediness called him. Got him out of his emptiness. Struggled through Parkinson's to come to us. Okay. I shot my wad a second time. I love you all. See me in 2 weeks, maybe next week too. Goodbye.